And good morning. My name is Steve Pugh. I was just checking that the camera was actually kind of starting to work. If we don't know each other, every Friday morning I do a bit of a live stream where I talk about lots of different stuff throughout the week. Hopefully it's quite interesting to you. We have a business education course which is called the Roadmap MBA, which hopefully you might have seen. Basically, it's about 250 pages of everything you need to know to help grow your business or career. And one of the really big things about our mission is about making business education accessible and really doing everything we can to really help educate and inform and really help kind of lift people up who might not have access to other kind of traditional forms of business education, either to do with cost, time, and maybe, you know, academic kind of resource and background and that kind of thing as well. And basically what we do in the live Q&A is once a week, people send in various different questions, or I decide to pick on different kind of topics throughout the week to really kind of help, you know, I guess get some interaction and that kind of thing as well. If you get involved in the comments, they should pop up on the screen. So they'll pop up on my left, I think. Yes, no, my right. And basically, yeah, I'd love to know where in the world you're from. What you've been up to this week, any kind of particular goals or aims or anything that you've kind of achieved. And with that, again, you know, when you're trying to build a kind of a big global kind of business, often it's never done in one big, you know, hit. It often does take a lot of time and effort and that kind of thing. So often kind of it's really important to celebrate the smaller wins as well as the kind of really big ones. So especially for the regulars, if you ever get in touch, I love it, the interaction, and I love to kind of work and go through different stuff. Now, I also like to kind of recap on some of the stuff that I've done throughout the week as well, because as an entrepreneur myself, often when you teach the things and you teach the theory for how to kind of grow a business, the proof is in the pudding. It's almost, you know, people will judge me, and rightly so, on what I kind of do myself. So actually each week I tend to give a bit of an update on stuff that I've done as well. The main three topics I'm going to talk about today. The first one is dealing with burnout. Basically, yeah, I've been really pushing it really hard this year. I think it kind of caught up with me basically about this time last week. I think it really kind of hit home, just what kind of COVID and working hard and that kind of thing had happened. So I just wanted to kind of talk about that. An interesting one is actually to do with why you can't hack YouTube and can't hack the YouTube algorithm. And basically it was, you know, my channel got monetized about a month ago, and in a typical fashion, of course you do, if you're going to get paid for the number of views, you're going to see actually are there ways to, you know, get more views and actually do that kind of thing. I tried, and actually there's lots of ways and hacks, and I don't think they work. So I just thought I'd talk about that, which would be quite interesting. And then the other thing which I'm going to talk about, which again, I'm always very honest with the journey, is I'm going to launch and start recording a 360 video at the same time. You might have just heard it click then, because I actually had some problems with it just before we started. That basically when I record my traditional 2D live streams, which what these are, I now have a 360 camera, and what that's going to do is record this room when I do these, but also for some other stuff, other content I've got planned in the future. Basically the entire thing. And what's quite cool is almost that you don't need fancy glasses. You can actually just do it on your phone. On YouTube, and I think Facebook does it as well, you'll be able to actually kind of scroll around the room and see different stuff. But actually I'm going to run loads of different kind of competitions and whichever. And yes, I'm going to talk about that as well, and what I'm kind of looking to do, how and that kind of thing as well. So I tend to kind of keep these kind of short and sweet. If you have any questions or anything to do with, I don't know, how can we boost sales, or when struggling to get traction on our marketing or promotion, what do we do, how do we do it, please get in touch, drop a question in the comments, and I will always happily kind of respond however I can. And yeah, that'd be awesome. So for my week this week, basically what have I been up to? I've had some progress. I've mentioned previously, and actually I think it was last week, when I gave my own roadmap for the business about what I'm planning to do over the next kind of year, 2 years. One of them is to do with basically hardcover versions of the book, but really going for a retail angle on that. I'm really trying to up the game with that. There's some really good kind of corporate customers have started to come through. We've had people buy the roadmap as Christmas gifts, which is quite cool. I have a podcast webinar interview with the ladies at Fabric coming up on 21st of January, which I'm really looking forward to, actually, just to talk about personal development and that kind of thing. So you'll see some social media on the channels to do with that. I had the interview with Amisha Patel on Monday. That was really, really fantastic. So as a chartered mechanical engineer, a lot of my background started in energy and both oil and gas and kind of renewables. And I love talking to people that have been there, done it, but they see a different side of the kind of industry. And Amisha was talking about her background, her heritage, the women of engineering and trying to inspire people to kind of get into the sector. We talked about offshore wind and floating wind, and she was also at COP26 in Glasgow, I think it was a month ago, 2 months ago now. And it was just to really, get feedback, and just a really interesting person. And that was really good as well. So that's on YouTube if you want to check it out. For the kind of the Christmas break, I need a rest as well. So basically this will be my last stream until my first interview back is the 3rd of January. Hopefully you'll see some kind of cool stuff. I am going to play more with the 360 video. It turns out it's a lot harder to do than you might think, and actually the amount of processing power that it needs is just off the charts compared to normal 1080p traditional video. It's a big step up, and actually it's just something that I want to play with and do. But again, it's all part of the learning curve, that it's not so much for now in terms of, yes, it's a bit of a gimmick that you can go onto YouTube. Good morning, Paul. Thank you for commenting on Facebook. Yeah, it's not so much just for now as, yeah, it is a bit of a gimmick and a marketing tool, but actually it's for kind of 4 or 5 years ahead, when actually the metaverse and everything we're talking about will be a much bigger thing, that actually, yeah, I want to kind of find my feet so that I'm ready when the time comes to really kind of jump into that next level of interactive classroom stuff, so that hopefully people can feel like they're actually sat in the room and they have the ability to look around and stuff as well. Based on file sizes, I have no idea how we'd be able to broadcast and stream that, because it's bonkers, as well. 1080p is not actually that bad. But these are all, the challenges to kind of face, but I thought it'd be quite interesting. So the first one, I'm just going to grab a pen, and part of the reason just why I do this is that when I then come to edit up these videos and kind of clip them up and go into YouTube, when I can actually look, when I skim through, when I've written on the board, I know when to start and finish, which is quite clever. But Paul, and for anyone else that kind of tunes and watches, I'd love to know kind of, what you've been up to this week, any kind of business challenges or personal goals or anything that you've kind of been up to this week. But then likewise, almost, I'll be honest, just getting through the week, and just, I feel a great kind of sense of achievement. That touched some wood when I came into work this morning. I was kind of, getting close to where I wanted to be with the week and getting my workload and stuff. And actually that's kind of good enough for me, that I'm really kind of looking forward to the weekend and just relaxing a bit, getting on the Xbox. And yeah, so that's cool. So my first topic. So this is a really interesting one actually, because if you would have asked me 2 years ago, or just whenever, to be honest, when you go through your career, and especially in your kind of 20s, there was a point when I was doing my PhD at Sheffield, but also I launched a new business at the same time. And I must admit, I was kind of working crazy hours, but I was enjoying it and I was learning stuff and whatever. And then even as you go through and in your career and you do different stuff, you can always work hard. But I think it is a next level. It's a different type of pressure when it's your own business, because actually you're on all the time. You're always thinking about stuff. It could be ideas. It could be worrying about paying the bills. It could be your competitors. There's 100 kind of things that you think about, that actually it is a different gig to when you work for someone else. And I think the other thing, which I've had a few good chats with people this week as well, I think there's an extra pressure, because essentially when you're kind of talking to people and you're trying to win contracts and do whatever it is that you do, there is a major element of trust there, that you're quite literally putting your name and reputation on the line, that you always want that to be perfect, because inherently, that's the gig, that is what you're here to kind of to do. And I think because of that, with the roadmap, and as I've mentioned in previous weeks, when you actually fund both the production of something like this and all the graphic design and print of thousands of copies and a full-time YouTube studio and new website and branding, it's really expensive. So basically the way that I chose to do it was actually to self-fund it. So it was to, rather than go to the bank and take a loan and have the debt, or to basically go out and get venture capital or external finance, I decided that I wanted to go the route, even though it would take longer, to work hard doing the consultancy, because actually that's what people kind of pay me to do, earn the money and then spend it back, so that actually touch some wood at the end of this, say, this financial year, I could have set up everything that I'm looking to, have full kind of proof of concept, but actually without any of the negatives of having 50 grand's worth of debt, that I'd be worried about, or, I'd given away 40% of the company or that kind of thing as well. So the way that I chose to do that, it was basically through consultancy. So that as of, last week, I had 4 kind of retained clients, and basically they would all pay me to do stuff every week, and I would balance all the roadmap stuff around that, if that makes sense. And the reason why I chose to prioritize other people's stuff for 80% of the week was quite literally to pay for everything. But then likewise, I also kind of enjoy it as well. But then with deadlines coming up, I guess with COVID and some of the new announcements, you have Christmas. I had a lot of deadlines for my own roadmap stuff, both shipping out the new copies, but then finishing off the new book and whatever. And it actually got to the point where the pressure to deliver everything at the same time, when it's only you that works in the business, it kind of built up and it did kind of get a bit much. And then it was just one of those things that, a few people kind of commented, my wife especially was almost just saying about how, taking a rest. And because actually that was the other side to it as well. Over the course of the year, I actually hadn't taken any holiday. Yes, the odd bits and bobs, but no actual like proper time off. And it did come back to, kind of bite me in a way that, I'm normally pretty kind of, on it, but I was struggling to think straight, and it was a lot. And basically I was dealing with burnout. I'd just been pushing myself kind of too much. So I made some changes. I spoke to some of my clients. I've reduced back some of the work. I actually finished some of the projects, which I was kind of a little bit worried about, but it was almost how just the emotional pressure of delivering stuff can really kind of build up, and really kind of got to me. So it was just one of the things that I wanted to talk about, because there'll be other people out there that also feel exactly the same. And actually there was a post I put out last Friday, I think, which was just, my experience of this. And I think it's up to, a few tens of thousands of kind of views, and I think it's up to about 100 likes now as well. But it was almost just, I wanted to be honest about the process. In terms of my learnings, to almost try and get through it, and I'm still by no means a kind of, flying and perfect and whatever, but actually just the process. I think the first one is not to be too hard on yourself. I'm going to put self-love. Often people that, work for themselves, your own, actually this is true in anything, is, you're your own worst critic. And I think part of my problem was that I was worrying so much about what people thought and are they happy with the service and stuff, that actually it was just this emotional pressure that I guess kind of built up into anxiety. Workload is a massive one. So basically when you have a lot of stuff to do, makes sense, it builds up and it takes its toll. And it's just managing your workload. So actually it's good to be busy. It's good that you have money coming in, but never take it past the point where it really kind of impacts you personally and your health and that kind of thing. That should always kind of come first. And then the rest one is kind of rest. So by rest, what I mean, it's not just sleep. One of the funny things that I think I was kind of guilty of is that if you read most kind of textbooks and articles and different kind of stuff, basically they talk about, get 8-9 hours of sleep, eat well, drink lots of water, exercise, that kind of thing. And I was doing all of those things. But the truth is you actually need proper time off in terms of just headspace. So the post was all to do with, if you enjoy Netflix or playing Call of Duty on the Xbox or cycling or going for a walk or whatever it is that you just enjoy, like never feel guilty about actually doing it. What was the quote? It was time enjoyed wasted is never wasted time, I think. But it was the whole point of actually the brain does need time to actually turn off, so that you can't operate and you shouldn't operate all day every day. And actually, even though some people might see it as unproductive time, I think it's really kind of important. So one of the things that I'm going to start doing a lot more is actually prioritizing stupid time where I'm not doing anything. And although that sounds really silly, the whole point is it's trying to get longevity to help me kind of perform at a high level for the next kind of 10 years and almost not burn out, if that makes sense. I'd love to know in the comments if you've ever kind of, suffered or felt anything like this yourself. It could be a kind of short-term deadline, or I guess at uni, it's all to do with exams. And it's that balance of, I guess, when it's only for a short period, it's not too bad, you can kind of get through it. But almost with your career or your business, because in theory it could go on for 10 years, it's really important to kind of nib it in the bud and kind of, make a change early if you can. I'd love to know in the comments if any of you have ever kind of felt like this. This is just my own kind of experience. And then the other side to it as well, just being honest, is actually talking about it. I know it's one of the things that people always say, men especially, with, would we call it mental health? I guess we kind of would. Just talking about stuff that you're going through, that almost, not always trying to pretend or, pretend that, you're perfect. And actually, there are struggles and things that you deal with, because actually being willing to kind of talk about it will actually hopefully help people that might not be at that stage yet, but still, might listen or watch or interact or whatever as well. Cool. So next, I'm going to go into the 360 video one next. And actually what I'm going to do, and this might be a complete car crash, but I'm going to try, is I'm actually going to zoom out on that camera. I'm going to give you a wider shot of the room for this shot, because that should then be in shot that you can see it. And I think it'll help set the context for what I'm going to try and do. But if the stream goes to absolute shit and I can't get the camera back, it's my fault. So I'm just going to go, yoink. There we go. So with, yes, this is the different shot that you've probably never seen. Whenever you film anything, what you always want to do is have lots of things, be it your microphone or your sound or your lighting, just out of shots, so that you get all the benefit of looking good and the best lighting you can and best sound and whichever, but it doesn't ruin the illusion that there is lots of lighting around. So actually for a lot of you, you might have never seen the two lights behind my head, which actually light the back of me, if that makes sense. There's a light there which is kind of just a bit closer to light me, and then actually in the room, which you can't see but you will when we do the 360 stuff, is I have three quite powerful lights which I bounce off the roof, which are on the other wall, and some other kind of stuff as well. But the thing that I want to talk about is this. You can probably just about see it. So as of, when did I buy it? Last week, I think it came. So basically one of the things that I'm going to start looking to do is that 2D video is stuff that we are all kind of used to. We know what it is, we know how it works. You can jump on your phone, you can join a stream, you kind of talk to people, and it looks exactly what it is. 360 video is a little bit different, where basically on a normal camera, you have one lens that shoots in one direction. So here you have, I've got a Canon EOS RP, which is a full frame mirrorless camera, which I use for my main kind of shot, which is a very good camera, but it just shoots forwards. This is actually the Insta360 One X2, where actually, basically what this does, it has two really fish angle, wide angle lenses on either side. And then what it does, it shoots one this way and then one that way, and then using clever AI, it stitches it all together. And why this is quite clever is actually when you then put it through all the software and onto YouTube, it means that for an experience, and that could be, I guess you have all your action sports and stuff, but then likewise, it could be a wedding, it could be Christmas, it could be a classroom, it could be motorsport, it could be anything you want. In theory, the user could be inside the car with Max Verstappen, but has the ability to actually look around, so that if you had goggles on, like an Oculus Quest or whichever, you would actually hopefully feel like you're in the room. And then, good morning, hi Alex. Yeah, so this is again one of the tech reviews that I kind of want to talk about and almost give you the behind the scenes, because by its very nature, the 360 camera is going to be behind the scenes. So one of the things that I wanted to start to do when Facebook and stuff started to talk about the metaverse and tech and stuff, one of the big things for me is trying to stay ahead of the curve on what everyone else does, because again, I want a better, slicker, nicer kind of business. So what I wanted to do was explore 360 videos, so that when people kind of start to move forward with their kind of, headsets and people get used to it, and actually it wouldn't surprise me if you start to get glasses like these where you have the augmented reality and stuff, we should start to learn the craft and how to do it, because I've spent a fortune on this kind of studio, why not kind of use it? So just as some kind of background, the camera arrived a week ago. I started to have a play with it to get a feel for it. It is a lot trickier than you might think, and actually my plan was to record this session also in 360, and then when the countdown clicker was ticking, basically it wouldn't work. It kept going into camera mode, photo mode, but not video mode, but I didn't have time to fix it, but I'm going to work on that anyway. But one of the things that's quite interesting is because it's a very wide angle kind of shot, when I was filming like basically from the floor up. So basically I had it on a stand. So it was kind of, it had to be out of shot of this camera because otherwise it ruins the illusion. It didn't look good. It looked a bit crappy. And then likewise, it also wasn't very flattering because wide angle shots basically distort whatever's closer to it. So one of the brave ideas that I had is that I'm not afraid to mount things and lights to the ceiling anyway, was actually try to mount it to the ceiling, drop it down so that it's just out of shot for this main camera. Obviously it's not now because I'm showing it to you. But actually what my hope is that actually you get a good visual 360 on the room. And yeah, I wanted to kind of give you a little bit behind the scenes. Alex, if you've got any questions, please kind of let me know. A few little niggly things, which I'll talk about now, but at some point I'll do a full kind of review because again, I've started to do like tech reviews and stuff as well. The sound isn't very good because if you ever use the GoPro, the sound is a bit crappy. It's a bit tinny. It's not what I would hope to do as a professional kind of broadcast kind of thing. So one of the things I've been looking at is that basically you take the capture from this, you put it through the Insta360 software, you can export that as a .mov, you can then put that file into Final Cut Pro, which is how I normally kind of do my videos. And what my plan is to try and do is that because for my normal kind of setup, I have this lavalier mic with a Rode Wireless Go setup, which is pretty good, is to then use the audio from my normal stream and then put that over the audio from the 360. So you should get the best of both worlds. Yes, it won't be directional audio as in you'll hear where I am in the room, but it's a first world problem. I prefer that than crappy sound, if that makes sense. And yeah, it was just almost when the world starts to do more metaverse-y type stuff, I wanted to kind of try and stay ahead of the curve. And again, the mission is making business education accessible, that it wouldn't surprise me if in 10 years, you know, a lot of university lecturers and classroom sessions they do over Zoom. It wouldn't surprise me if they do it via 360, because in theory you could have 1 million people on every call and they're sat just there, if that makes sense. So I wanted to learn it. And then the other thing which I'm going to start doing, which I've mentioned to some people as well, is probably on YouTube where you'll kind of find all the content and stuff. But I'm going to do 360 competitions. So if you actually go onto the Roadmap MBA YouTube and like scroll around when we start to upload the 360 content, basically I've actually done it, it just didn't work. You know, competitions so that you can scroll around and find little Easter eggs and prizes and codes to email in to win prizes. And yes, it's an incentive to kind of get some traction on some of the new kind of stuff, but it's also just a bit of fun. So yeah, it was just something I wanted to talk about, but if you've got any questions, please feel free to kind of get in touch. And I'm just going to try and put the camera back to where it should be, but hopefully that was a little bit of kind of behind the scenes. I'll go to 35mm. There you go. So now I've kind of let you behind the curtain so that you can actually see what lights me and how I do it. And actually one of the things that I'm planning to do, which will be my first proper 360 video, is actually to give you a studio tour of what I do here and all the kit I have and that kind of thing. Because that, you know, people hopefully might find it interesting. I'm probably going to film that directly after this, actually, if I can get that thing working. But I like to be honest, I like to kind of share the journey. But if you've got any questions, let me know. And then, yeah, a lot of people do kind of pick my brains about podcasts and setups and microphones and whatever as well. Please feel free to always get in touch. I'll always answer anything I can as well. Cool. I love actually starting these early, so I appreciate I've been talking for 20 minutes, but it's only 12 minutes past 9, which actually means I can get jump on my day a little bit earlier. And hopefully, yeah, it kind of works for me, but it's just a relaxed kind of thing as well. If you're just kind of tuned in, I'd love to know where in the world you're watching from, what your kind of aims and goals and ambitions for the kind of business, and actually, if you've been able to, what kind of progress and stuff have you made this week? I'd love to know. If you get involved in the comments, it does pop up on screen, and I'll happily answer any questions or anything you've got as well. Okay. So now that I've given you a behind the scenes, you know, if you've got any questions, you'll probably, what's been quite funny is the more I kind of go through the setup, the more complicated it gets. And even when I went to the second machine, because I now stream on lots of different channels at the same time that I needed to do that, through adding the extra camera, there's now another layer of complexity for me to set up in the time scale of it ticking down. So I'm kind of making my life worse, but I think it's worth the kind of gamble. It should be quite interesting content as well. Okay, last but not least, there we go. So recently, when was it? It was about a month ago, 2 months ago, I passed the 1,000 follower limit on YouTube to get monetization. So I think you need 4,000 watch hours, at least 1,000 followers, and some other stuff as well. And basically, to do that, what in theory then you can do is actually start to get paid for any well, it allows you to put adverts on your videos, but then also obviously the more views and stuff you get, the more you get paid because you're doing more advertising. And as someone that probably uploads 15-ish maybe videos a week, because this itself gets clipped up into 3 or 4, and then you have the streams, you have the interviews, you have the interview then gets clipped up itself to lots of different ways. The hope was that I can generate an extra income stream from YouTube over time to kind of do that. And then maybe it's my kind of Scouse background roots or whichever. But again, okay, so if you think you're going to get paid, I'm going to guess, a penny for every for every advert, actually it's probably less than that, it's probably like 1/10 of a penny for every advert that goes on YouTube on one of your videos. In theory, if you can leave your stream running 24 hours a day with 100 tabs open, you can really rack up the money and the ad revenue and stuff like that. I tried it, I won't even lie. It doesn't work. And then I'll tell you why it doesn't work. Basically, YouTube's pretty clever. And what they've done, there's lots of ways where they look out for different things and watch hours and IP addresses and that kind of thing. Because in theory, I've got 700 plus videos on my channel. That in theory, what I tried was to actually press play on the first one as a playlist, leave it running, and then just rack up mega views 24 hours a day, just leave it churning away. And basically what it does, it recognizes when something's wrong, where it's all from the same address, even if you do it on Incognito windows and stuff. And basically it doesn't work. So I did some homework. I looked around. There's lots of videos about how there's tricks with Google Chrome. If you go on, remove all the cookies, remove all the history, open an Incognito window, do the same again, create 20 odd tabs, put a playlist on, try and make it less than an hour long because that triggers something. And then basically play it at double speed at the lowest quality, so in theory you can handle more tabs, run it through. And basically I tried it because I wanted to kind of see if I could make it work. So for about a week and a bit last week, I really tried to rinse it, if I'm honest. It looked like it was going quite well. It looked like I was up to a few hundred views across like multiple videos, and it was really kind of going quite well. And then I didn't do it the weekend because there's like a 48-hour time lag between when you do it before you actually get all the analytics. And basically what happened was that even though I'd followed all of the rules, all the stuff people talk about, doing the incognito windows, no cookies, no trackers, nothing, basically all my views dropped from, I don't know, hundreds per some of my interviews back to like 20 or 30. And basically it didn't work. And what I wanted to talk about, and just be honest, is that there might be ways to do it, but if there is, I don't know how to do it. But the other side to it as well is that because the revenue per ad is so low, even if it was taking me realistically half an hour a day to actually kind of set it, actually it'd be more than that. Yeah, so say half an hour a day to kind of set it up, do it, set up all the tabs, run it. After an hour, close them all, do it, set it up again. Compared to what I can be paid doing the consultancy stuff or proactive business stuff to approach customers about revenue and whatever, it doesn't make sense. So I've kind of officially given up trying to hack the monetization on YouTube. And it's not that I didn't want to, it's not that I didn't try, it's just, it didn't work. But also my time is still better spent actually doing my actual proper job and creating proper content like this than trying to do that, if that makes sense. And I just thought it'd be an interesting topic to talk about, I'm very honest. That I tried, it didn't work. Fair play to YouTube. I still appreciate the kind of the channel and what I'm trying to do, and there's lots of videos and stuff out there about how to do it, but the truth is I don't think they kind of work, or if they do, it's not for me. But anyone that kind of follows this who has their own business or entrepreneurial aims, or even if you've got a decent career, I'll be honest, your time is still better spent with proactive value add stuff to build and grow your business, or look at 360 video or whichever, than actually trying to hack a system which doesn't really work. Hopefully that's interesting. I'd love to know if you tried it, failed it, did it work, did it not work? Please kind of let me know. I'd love to know in the comments. I think that's it kind of today. One last thing I forgot to mention was when I actually did my branding, so the rebrand, so it was for the new kind of look and feel, all of the videos, the light pathway, everything you've kind of seen. So basically it was a company called Better in Middlesbrough who did that for me, and they're really good. I can't lie. Expensive, but they are really good. Basically, they did a blog post all about the journey and the process and what we did and how we did it, which went out I think it went out yesterday. So check that out if it's interesting. You'll find it on the socials. And then likewise, I've also kind of kicked off and we've started to go through the concepts on my new website as well. So my current one I built myself on Wix, which is fine, nothing wrong with it, but it's not the best. So actually what I wanted to do with where I'm trying to get to was build a proper website, which actually takes all the stuff from best in the world, people that do stuff, and really kind of, reach that level. So actually the guys that are doing that from Bloom Digital oh God, my mind's gone blank, basically in Newcastle. I've done a really good job so far, so I'm really looking forward to kind of building that one out as well. At 9:20, I think I'm going to call that quits. It's a pleasure, as always, to kind of do these kind of things. If I don't see you, which I won't now until January, my next interview is the 3rd of January with a trans lady called Jo. We're going to talk about inclusivity and diversity, which will be really interesting. And then likewise, I also we had to postpone it, a guy called David Winter that almost edits a lot of my interview videos is a pro gamer. So he does a lot of stuff on YouTube and Twitch and others, a lot of kind of racing games. And what we were planning to do was I was going to interview him, but we're going to sit in this room, play FIFA, and actually talk and interview whilst we play. It was just a bit of kind of fun. It was meant to be last night, we had to postpone it, but we might fit that in at some point as well. And again, it's just trying to find the balance between different types of careers, different things that we've got going on, stuff that I actually enjoy kind of creating, you might find interesting. And then as we kind of go into 2022, hopefully I'll get the 360 stuff kind of working. I do have hopeful kind of aims for the business, but I'd love to know genuinely about, what you've got going on as well. The classroom sessions are also going to pause now until the new year. I'll put some posts out about that. But the whole point of the classroom sessions is that you could be Paul or Alex or anyone that's kind of commented today. In your own business or career, if you ever just want to pick someone's brains, bounce some ideas around, or work with me, and it is me, it's live, to actually walk through the course to help you grow your business career, you're more than welcome to as well. So on that one, I'm going to call it quits. Have a wonderful Friday. Have a great weekend. Have a great Christmas. If you've got any questions at all, please feel free to get in touch, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Cheers, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.